The Southern Baptist Convention makes gagging women official policy. Hi, I'm Scott.
Hi, I'm Mark.
And so I was, not at all taken aback by these headlines. Actually, I saw a pair of headlines this week from Christian Headlines and ChristianPost.com. From Christian Headlines, Southern Baptist Theological Seminary passes resolution affirming that only men can be pastors. And
So, Rick
ChristianPost.com.
Warren, you better watch out.
Right, that's where I'm about to go. SBC Seminary passes resolution limiting pastoral roles to men. So like they're not having enough problems right now with churches leaving and with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of cases of sexual abuse that they still have not adequately dealt with. And apparently now is a good time to make it abundantly clear to everybody that they're about to go to war with Saddleback Church.
I mean, and my question here is, was the Southern Baptist Conference were they really that troubled by their inability to be completely regressive to women?
Yes.
They're like, well, they've forced us to deal with the whole sexual harassment thing, so I guess now we have to do this thing over here.
Yes. The answer to both those is yes.
I was like, yeah, and then they look at this fight, Rick Warren versus the Southern Baptist Conference. This is like a death match. I want to see this in an actual ring.
Well, it's interesting. The timing is interesting because Rick Warren stepped down. So this is not versus Rick Warren anymore. And it's a testament to who has more influence, right? Because if they would have fought this fight while Rick Warren was the pastor, they would have lost. So now they feel like they've got better chances now that there's new leadership in there, and they can take a swing and feel like even if they do lose, it won't be too much mud in their face, which is super interesting. But to answer your earlier questions, do they hate women that much? They really do for some reason. They really do just hate the idea of women teaching men. Even though, here's the part that I can't wrap my head around.
The one part?
Is reality, right? God's reality, the way he set up the home, seems to be that most homes are like little solar systems that revolve around mom. Mom is really at the center of everything that happens in the home. She is the center of love and caring for the children. She's typically the center of, nourishing meals, feeding their minds and hearts and spirits. And so how these young boys turn into men that hate women is just a little bit beyond me,
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I've heard some people complaining. I mean, not necessarily church people, but complaining that the world that was set up by the baby boomers, a world where, mom was at home and would raise the kids, softened us and made us into a bunch of pansies or something, because we had too much woman influence on our lives. And that's just stupid.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, especially if you're a Christian and you're making that complaint, show me in the Bible, a comprehensive and exact list of these are the properties that you should have to be masculine. These are the properties you should have to be feminine. And that's it. This is the definition of the genders. Give me that exact list. Oh, you can't because it's not freaking in there.
Right.
So shut up. We culturally decide what makes people masculine and what makes people feminine. And the actual differences between the genders is way less than people like the Southern Baptists make out. It's I'm sorry. It really seems to be that you're afraid of, women's plumbing.
Yeah. I have a hard time believing this is about gender roles as much at all. Because this conversation has been ongoing long before. We added the additional complexity of LGBTQ and their role in the church to the conversation. I don't know how this can be framed as any other way except that men hate the idea of women in power. You know what I mean? Men are just consistently through the years telling women, Like, you're not the boss of me.
Yeah, and like,
And
and what good does it do to like think in those terms in the first place?
right. Especially in the context of a Bible trying to illustrate to us that marriage or the male women relationship is always in partnership, right? From Old Testament to
Right.
New Testament. You know, Eve was made from Adam, right? Not literally. For those of you who are about to like take that as like my literal argument that women was made from men, like this is all metaphor, right?
But
But
even if you accept it
even
as
in
literal,
right, even in metaphor or as literal, the two were made to work together, not not one having an unbalance over the other. It doesn't work. It just leads to disaster. And but we have once again a male power structure, and it's not just in the SBC; it's all over the church,
hmm
um, that wants to keep that relationship out of balance and wants to ignore the contribution of women to the uh, healthy leadership of the church.
yeah, and like, and some people will argue, like Jordan Peterson, because he's a misogynist pig. Like he'll argue that men are better suited for leadership positions because of like intrinsic qualities to maleness of order versus women who are chaotic. Um,
Right.
and I'm sorry, but like, have you seen a mom like keep three kids in line while
Yeah.
making dinner?
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry, if anybody knows how to order a system, it's mothers.
Yeah.
I mean, because quite frankly, I would have murdered all three of my children,
Right.
you know,
And
if
right.
the
And
roles were
actually,
reversed.
right. And actually, it's kind of an inversion, right? Like, because I don't think there's anything wrong with like with stating reality, right?
hmm
The reality is that most men are bigger and stronger. That's reality.
Yeah.
Um, and so that does dispose men to being the hunters, to being the gatherers, to being the workers, right? Once again, Jordan Peterson would say there's a reason why 99% of bricklayers are men, right? And
Yeah.
there's no inherent need to equalize that between the sexes, right?
Yeah. I'm not
Um,
going to apologize that testosterone makes me have more muscle mass.
right, but the important thing here, my point being, okay, so if men are predisposed to being the hunters, to being the strong, then they are the ones who should be out in the field risking their lives, and it should be the women who should be back home with all the power and all the decision making and doing all the
Yeah.
management, right? Make the men go out there and do all the lowly work, and have the women, you know, get together in a women's council and decide what's best for the community because that's what they're inherently good at.
Yeah, and it's like when you
Yeah,
look at like this thing, like, well, men are quote unquote strong.
yeah.
Um, it's like, if yeah, sure, maybe in terms like physical strength, men on average are stronger than women.
Sure, that's just
Um,
a statistical reality.
yeah, that's just that's like human beings are dimorphic. Men and women are, we have different shapes and different physical traits.
Right.
But in this day and age, right, like in a hunter gatherer society, yes, men going and hunting, women doing other tasks makes sense. But like women would still chop down trees, so it's not like they're they're completely incapable physically.
Right.
But like that principle doesn't translate into how our modern society is.
Right. And certainly should not translate into how our modern churches are run, is my
Right.
point.
And so like how do they get from A to B? Like that's the part that like really buggers me out here, because it's like, how do you get from hunter gatherers, that structure made sense. And so right now today, in which strength has no bearing whatsoever on leadership capacity, or the needs of leadership, that it still requires men. And mind you, like most of these men could be taken out by like, most, any woman who has a job,
Right.
like
And
doing
then,
anything other than like sitting on the couch and consuming television. Like if that's all you do, you can't. But if you actually move your body and raise children or go to work or any other thing, you can take out Mitch McConnell in a fight, no problem.
right.
Like like these
Yeah.
men are weak, and
Right.
they're weak-willed, and they're just, it's like everything that makes a man non-masculine is what these people actually exhibit.
Right.
But yet they insist that men have to do it.
And this gets back to the fundamental question that we try to answer in every episode. How does this break the church? Right. And in the church, it what happens is It is the men in power who want to stay in power, who are more than happy to abuse and misrepresent the gospel and what it says in order to stay in power,
Hmm.
right? So it's not like it's the atheists out there that are abusing the Bible, or it's the agnostics or the Wiccans that are misrepresenting Jesus in the Bible. It's the Christian men who misrepresent
Right.
the gospel. It's the Christian men who misrepresent the teachings of Jesus and Paul. It's the Christian men who know no bounds when it comes into the perversion of the Bible for their own gain.
Yeah, and when we're talking about how the modern church has become, terribly ineffectual at,
Mm,
making the changes that the world needs to see, to being the hands of and feet of Christ in the world. When the church has become that ineffectual, and it has been run mostly by men for its entire history,
hmm
what are you preserving?
Exactly. Like, what legacy are you preserving? That's a great question.
I mean, I feel like what you're saying is that, yeah, men have failed to run the church well. Thus, at this point, we can see the need for women to be running the church.
I would wholly support that. I would wholly support pursuing that line of reasoning.
Mhm.
Absolutely, and see, like, I think there's a lot there that could be expounded upon for sure.
Well, I'm glad I said something intelligent.
Hey, it's bound to happen when you do this many episodes, right?
Right. I mean, I'm a monkey with a typewriter. Sooner or
Love it.
later, something's going to come out.
Absolutely. All right, so let's shut this circus down. This is Church's Lane podcast. We love the church, and we want to fix the church. And the way we do it is by pointing out all the stupid things churches do that break the entire body. So if you'd like to add to the conversation, by all means, leave a comment down below, and hit those like buttons and subscribe buttons. And if you're listening to this through a podcast, shoot us an email, churcheslanepodcast@gmail.com.
And with that, thank you for joining us. And may the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. May the Lord lift his countenance upon you and give you peace. Amen.